Morning and welcome back to this feed. We almost never do a live feed in this particular group called Class Action Lawsuit Against Specicide. The reason why it's very pertinent for today and why we have the cats in the background will all hopefully become understandable and clear very soon. This group, Class Action Lawsuit Against Specicide, is trying to explain to people that we're all really fighting the same fight. Unfortunately, we've been distracted into thinking that we all have our own fight. So we call it class action lawsuit because there's a lot better chance that we'll be heard, that we'll make a difference. We come together as a group because in the end, we're all trying to defend ourselves against one or common existential threats that threaten us all. So this is a class action lawsuit because everyone should feel equally threatened, equally victimized, and equally included in the fact that we want to survive this specicide. Specicide is the fact that with the harmful practices of corporations and of people and other organizations motivated by greed to maintain the scarcity mentality, it by definition has to prioritize and define which lives matter in order to arbitrate and justify all the acts that are done to hurt some species over others for the sake of survival, the us versus them mentality. So that's number one. We're all facing more or less the same threats, even though we express them differently. We're all on the same planet that is facing the same impending doom that can be coming from so many different reasons and sources. Whether it's world war, whether it's regional war, whether it's just a couple of lunatics somewhere that have gotten their hands on something that they shouldn't have. Whether it's people that are just living in practices that are so destructive and so competitively destructive that even while people are working on solutions for one problem, creating new problems makes it impossible to deal with anything. So we're always dealing with what's urgent versus what's important to cause weapons of mass distraction to lead us into this point of despair, relative despair. Greta Thunberg's already on her 250-something week of school strike, climate strike, all the different things she's doing, and yet it's still people, organizations, companies, governments aren't doing what they can and what they should, what they need to, what they should be legally obligated to do because they can be held accountable. There is money at risk here. We call this a class action lawsuit because, again, that's where money talks, and on a corporate level, corporations should be smart enough, should be aware enough, should be in tune enough to know that this warning gives them a chance to do good, even if it's for the wrong reason, to make deals, to settle, to just stop doing what they're doing, because if they don't stop, they'll be held accountable to the point where there's no point of no return. Meaning certain organizations that have been warned and given options that still don't do the right thing, they're war criminals. This will be tantamount to genocide, to specicide, to any other kind of war crime, and it should be, which is why we're also at the same time going to the Human Rights Tribunal in The Hague, because this is a human rights violation. On what level? On every level. To whom? To everyone. We're starting off specifically with the voiceless, meaning with children, special needs children, special needs people, anyone who's voiceless. So we're doing a separate class action lawsuit besides that represents every single person, every single being, every single living thing that is represented by a species, which is why we call it class action lawsuit against specicide. We're also doing a specific class action lawsuit, multiple class action lawsuits that represent voiceless groups, whether they are children, whether they're special needs communities. Unfortunately, it has to be broken down into communities, but together we hope we'll bring them together into a bigger class action lawsuit, because there are so many people that don't have a say over the food that they eat on such a simple level. So many people don't have a say over anything, even though in their lives, even though they make up such a large constituency, even though the resources are available, since they have no voice, and since all efforts are put again on what's urgent and not what's unimportant, because we make noise to create issues that are more urgent, things never get done. I'm mentioning this because it's at the critical point where we have to take this further. We have to take this further to the point where it's a human rights violation that is going to go to the Hague. We've started this 7+ years ago. That reached the Supreme Court in Israel with a warning and a threat, I hate to say, but a promise is more like it. That since there's no other place to go within the judicial system in Israel over a specific trial that was called Solomon's trial, the only next level is the Hague. The problem is, since then until this day, there's no leadership here to take to the Hague. There's no government that's stable. There's no court system that's solid. As a result, there's no one to take anywhere because there's no leaders. The sad reality is that all this will cause is chaos and problems, and there's no leaders to talk to, and there's no one to hold accountable, and there's no one to get to sign off on correcting the problem. It causes even more chaos. We can't handle much more chaos than there already is. So that's the only reason why we're still holding off. We're still holding off, hoping that leadership somewhere on some level will wake up enough to make the effort to push for proper leadership and management before we have to take things into our own hands. And again, I never, ever, ever am implying or hinting to anything violent. Not an art saying or doing. We would never, ever incite violence. On every single thing we do, we apply the Aikido principles of no confrontation if it's ever avoidable. The problem is that there's a certain point when you can't just wait for change to happen anymore. We're beyond that point of trying to wait for change to happen organically or sensibly or from the people. It's happening, but not enough and not fast enough. At least not for certain constituents that are suffering. Because if you're the one on the other end of all of this, there's only so long you can wait while you're holding your breath or waiting to be saved. Any moment of a person's rights being violated to that point is an eternity for them. And of course an eternity for anyone who cares enough to be empathetic towards them. So on that note, I'd say happy note, and I'd like to make it a happy note because we're optimistic and still positive and clear on what we're going to do, and we believe that we have a safe and healthy and friction-free path to do this, as long as we don't see obstacles, meaning as long as there isn't for no reason hurdles put in our way just for the sake of messing with us. Don't know what other word to use. But we've learned how to restore calm, we've learned how to live in a peaceful mentality, in a calm, cool mindset, and how to share that and teach that. And that's what we're hoping that we can take to the next level before things have to go even crazier than they've already gone. So wishing everyone a wonderful rest of their day and week. Please ask for more information, please pay some kind of an interest, please share what we're saying. At least people should be aware. We're not asking you to do more than just open your eyes and open your ears. And don't accept things are the way they are just because they are. At this point, your vote, meaning your like, your attention, your focus is all we need. Over and out.